Well, good afternoon, guys. It is March 13th. I'm back in Milcreek Canyon to try and make my first video of the spring. Though, once again, it seems like I was a little bit early and there's not a whole lot we can see today. I thought with all the heat we're having, that things would be better. It certainly, things are starting to leaf and bloom in the valley, but it doesn't seem like we got a lot of action up here. But this is my last chance to make a video before I go to Death Valley and try to see if I can find any wildflowers left after the intense heat wave we're going to have this next week. So let's just see what happens today. Well, now that I'm actually in a sunny place, I can see there's a fair amount of Cymopterus longipes going off. Nice member of the family Apiaceae. Cymopterus is a close relative of the genus Lomatium. They can sometimes look very, basically almost indistinguishable, though you can tell them apart because the fruit of Cymopterus has ridges while Lomatium does not. But again, a feature you can only use when the plant is in fruit is a pretty poor basis for telling two genera apart. And so I said this before, I think they should just be keyed out together in most guides, but they usually aren't, unfortunately. Otherwise though, not a whole lot yet, but the grass is certainly doing pretty well. No idea what species of grass it is, but it doesn't really matter much. Of course, I think these are all spent penstemons. Not sure what species, maybe Penstemon platyphilus, or some other species I can't remember right now. I don't think they're Cyananthus, which is what's commonly called the Wasatch Penstemon. But I'm sure soon we'll be able to know what they are, and by soon I mean in a month from now. I think Penstemon's one of the most diverse genera in Utah. It's got like, I don't know, it's like 50 or so species, I think. I have to look it up to know for sure, but it also depends on who's keeping track. Of course, this is basically a forest of primarily Acer grandidentatum, the Bigtooth Maple, and Quercus gambelii, neither of which are starting to leaf out. The Acer grandidentatum is going to begin leafing out first. I've really talked about those two species way too much, but it's just that all the habitat that they have is very easily accessible for me pretty much all the time, so that's kind of why I get talked about so much on my channel. Oh, look, and of course they have a nice Cirsium neomexicanum starting to grow. I think it might, I gotta look this up to know for sure. I think it might be a biannual, like a lot of thistles are, but they just have one year where they put their leaves out and grow a bunch, and then another one where they put their leaves out and then grow over full flower stalk and die afterwards. But I'm not sure, but that's definitely a native species, which is nice because, and I say this a lot, there's a lot of non-native thistles around here. I need to remember, since I last made a video like this in this canyon, I didn't have nearly as many subscribers as I do now, so if some of you guys haven't seen my previous videos, this might seem all new to you, but to long-term subscribers, this is something I do pretty much every year. I forget how much of a horror show this canyon can be sometimes. Right here is just a ton of Alyssum desertorum, a weedy member of Brassicaceae native to Europe and Central Asia. I imagine in Europe they mean the sort of Mediterranean and Eastern Europe area. The whole flower head that we see there is going to lengthen dramatically once it's fertilized. If I wish I could show you a picture, it looks very brassicaceous when it's seeding, but for now it just looks kind of like this, almost looks like a member of Asteraceae. But speaking of Asteraceae, there's of course a ton of Taraxacum officinale. Whoa, that turned out the wrong way. The common dandelion that grows in this canyon. It's just so abundant, you know, you can really imagine there's some native species not getting a chance to grow with how dominant it is, I guess. But I guess it's probably the least offensive of these three I'm going to talk about, because of course the worst is Euphorbia myrsinites, and this canyon, I think it's almost just a lost cause with this weed at this point. I'm seeing an increasing number of people pulling these up and just, you know, taking care of them, though I don't directly see it. I just see the torn up plants on the side of the trails, which I totally condone. I think that's awesome, but it's really not enough to take care of these infestations. Like if someone recently introduces a seed to a place where it's not found, it's a good idea. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it if that's what you want to do, but it's important to know that there's just Myrtle Spurge all up and down these slopes, and that's really where it's coming from. Okay, let's move on. I'm getting more towards the mouth of the canyon. I'm starting to see some good stuff. This is Phlox longifolia. A pretty common plant, all things considered, but definitely by far the most common phlox species you see in pretty much anywhere in Utah, possibly the whole Mountain West region. Very tough, hardy plant, does very well amongst invasives, like I presume many of this grass is. But I've definitely seen some native grass. Not to mention the dreaded Myrtle Spurge. Yeah, really cool plant, member of Polemoniaceae, which is a plant family, not a large one, only got about 300 species, but it does have its sort of center of diversity in the western United States. Sorry about that quick cut. A mountain biker just had a brush by me, but before I go, this is a skeleton of Illumatium dissectum from years past. I think they're perennial, so we might see another plant come up in the same area. Does it come out easy? It's not coming out very easy. Of course, its leaves aren't coming out at all yet, so you probably got to give that some time. However, another fantastic plant you can find in great abundance up here amongst the crappier non-native species. Guessing all these things with the flower stalk and silvery dead leaves gotta be Petrodoria pumila, a monotypic genus found in the western United States. So you won't find this genus, or species for that matter, anywhere else in the world than the western United States, but it's pretty widespread and common on rough, rocky soils, which just definitely seems to be a site like that. Have you heard that mountain biker driving by? Of course, you got some more of the Cymopterus longipes. And, oh, that must be some species of Astragalus. Maybe Astragalus cibarius? I don't know for sure, though. I'll have to see it bigger first before I'm confident to say exactly what it is, but there's actually quite a lot of Petrodoria pumila. Okay, I'm getting more hopeful I'll see some interesting stuff now. One thing I just noticed that's kind of cool is that there's all these shimmery spots all over the hillside here. I've seen this in a few places up the canyon. You can really see them easily here, like right there, and all over there. Let me zoom in a bit. And apparently they're just all spider webs. Let's take a closer look. Oh, that's really hard to see actually. Oh, I wasn't anticipating it'd be so hard to film. Hopefully, is that one a little bit visible? Maybe a tiny bit, just right there basically. But yeah, a lot of spiders out here, which must be good because must mean there's a lot of insects, and a lot of animals rely on insects to feed, or as food, I mean to say. I might be turning around soon, but I'm feeling a little more satisfied with what I found today. Well, it's about 5 o'clock and I'm getting really hungry. I think this is a pretty decent time to turn around though. If I find anything else interesting, as always, I'll continue to talk about it. So until then, thanks for watching and see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, this whole channel I think is going to be getting better soon. Things are going to be getting better for it. Not just because it's going to be spring, I'll be traveling to Death Valley or even Australia, but I should have more freedom to travel to interesting places with cool plants and other ecological stuff more in the future. So hang tight, guys. Thanks for sticking around for so much of this kind of nonsense.